Hello everyone, welcome to True Horror Anecdotes. Enjoy! Let me tell you a story that truly left a mark on me. It's a bit of a long story, but it's incredible, to say the least. My wife and I lived in Ohio for about 10 years. We decided that we needed a change, so we saved money to buy a house with some land in Virginia. It was hard to find a house we could afford with enough land, so it was frustrating for us for 10 months. Luckily, one Thursday evening, I was searching for houses in Virginia, as usual, when I found a really interesting one. It had 4 bedrooms, 60 acres of woodland, and a pasture for animals. It was located in Gladstone, and the price was at the higher end of what we could afford, but it was definitely worth it. We saw from the pictures that the property needed some fixing. It looked old and worn out in some places, but the land surrounding it was exactly what we wanted. So the next morning, we contacted the agent, set up a time to visit the property the following day, and met the agent there. The property was located in the middle of a forest, with open grasslands to the south of the house. Inside, there was the original furniture, which was in decent condition. The agent told us that the furniture was also included in the sale, and the owner wanted to sell quickly. Unfortunately, on the day of the visit, we couldn't see all the rooms or buildings because the agent received a call from her daughter's school, saying she was feeling sick and needed to be picked up. So we had to end the viewing early, which was annoying, but by that time, we had seen enough to know we wanted it. I took a chance and made a lower offer. Within 5 hours, the agent informed us that the offer had been accepted. We completed all the necessary paperwork and transfers. And since we already had a buyer for our Ohio house, the purchase went through smoothly in just 3 weeks. While waiting for my wife's job transfer to Virginia, she stayed with her sister. Since I could work from home, I decided to go down to the new property for a couple of weeks to start renovating it. My wife could join me on the weekends, which was nice. We stored most of our belongings while the new house was being renovated. However, I made sure to bring essential items with me: a TV, microwave, fridge, bedding, food, and of course, some beer for after work. I arrived at the new house on Friday around 1 p.m. and parked the rental van. Then, I spent the entire afternoon vacuuming and cleaning the rooms except for one bedroom upstairs. For some reason, that bedroom was locked and I couldn't open it. I checked all the keys that were provided, which were kept in an envelope on the kitchen table, but none of them fit the bedroom door. I decided to call the agent for help. The agent informed me that all the keys given by the relatives should be in the envelope, so it should be there. She told me that she would contact the previous owners in the meantime to see if there was another key and would let me know. I told her thanks. I decided to concentrate on cleaning the house and that I would investigate the 3 outbuildings tomorrow. I checked the water, gas, and electric. They were all on now. I decided for the first night to let the trusty microwave cook me dinner. I settled down that evening and watched some TV while eating a frozen dinner. Then, sometime around 11:30 at night, I cleaned up and went around to make sure all the doors in the house were locked and turned off the lights. I went upstairs to bed. I chose to sleep in the master bedroom, which was an ensuite and overlooked the grassland area of the property. I was in the bathroom washing up and looking at my face in the mirror when suddenly, I heard what sounded like a bang outside my bedroom door. I looked at myself in the mirror and said to myself, "What the hell was that?" I spat the toothpaste out and laid the toothbrush slowly down on the side of the basin and listened. It was totally quiet now. There was no noise. All I could hear was my own breathing. I threw some cold water over my face and looked at my reflection again. After that, I turned the light off and got into bed. But before I closed my eyes, I had to listen just one last time to make sure. The only noise I could now hear was an owl hooting off and on around the house. I closed my eyes and tried to fall asleep. Sometime later, I was woken from my sleep by some sort of noise. I turned and looked at my watch, and it read 3 a.m. What was going on? I thought. Then I heard the sound again. It sounded like someone opening drawers downstairs, but there was silence straight after it. I quickly got dressed and decided to go downstairs and investigate. Then I thought, what if it's a break-in? I needed to arm myself. So I looked around the room and saw an old-fashioned metal candlestick on the front window ledge. Yeah, that was the best I had at the moment. I grabbed it and opened the bedroom door. As I turned the landing light on, I looked around and listened. Once again, it was still silent. I steadily went downstairs and walked into the kitchen. I flipped the light on and then froze in horror on the spot. Around the kitchen sides, there were several kitchen drawers open, and on the main kitchen table, there was some cutlery arranged into some formation. As I got closer, I could see it was made up into 2 words. It said, "Help us." I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. I pinched myself in case this was a nightmare or something, but sadly, the pinching hurt my face, and I was still seeing this. So it was real, as I had never put those things there. Then, suddenly, I noticed that the kitchen was extremely cold. I could now see my breath in front of me. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what was happening and what I should do next. Then I suddenly became aware that there was something behind me. I wanted to look around and see what was there, but I was too scared. I then heard a whisper, and then suddenly the kitchen lights flickered and went out. So now I was standing in pitch-black darkness. But a few seconds later, when the lights came back on, a few words were written on the kitchen table. It read, "The bedroom key is on the top of the bathroom cabinet." I quickly went upstairs to the bathroom and checked the top of the cabinet. To my surprise, I found a key taped there. So I took it and walked down the corridor to the locked bedroom. I used the key on the lock and the door opened. Releasing a musty smell, I turned on the dim light and stepped inside the room. The room had 2 metal frame beds and a single wardrobe. The walls were bare and covered in a thick layer of dust. There was mold in one of the corners. I opened the wardrobe, but it was empty inside. As I looked around, I heard a voice again. It seemed to be coming from behind the wardrobe. "Please help us," the voice said. Without hesitation, I grabbed the wardrobe and pushed it along the wall. I noticed that the wall was painted without any wallpaper. Curiously, I tapped on it with a candlestick and heard a hollow sound. So I decided to hit it, and it broke, revealing a gap in the wall. Inside, I saw the shapes of 2 bodies, dressed in clothing that suggested they were around 11 or 12 years old. It seemed like they had been somehow preserved in the hidden space. Suddenly, I heard 2 whispers again. After that, I didn't waste any more time and immediately contacted the police to report what I had discovered. It was later revealed that the previous owner of the property, Frederick Scott, had been found dead in the same bedroom by hanging himself about a year ago. He had been questioned by the police when his 2 kids went missing in the area 16 months ago, but no clues were ever found. The police appreciated me for bringing attention to an unsolved case. I discovered the bodies of his children, but sadly they were not alive. The voices I heard were the spirits of the children guiding me. It wasn't too surprising for me, though, because I believe in the afterlife and the spirit world. I believe in all of that. Yes, it was unpleasant and frightening, but the voices I heard were truly the children leading me to their bodies. The old bodies they once inhabited. Those bodies needed to be laid to rest. They didn't deserve to decay in the walls. Either way, I believe we would have eventually found out the truth. Before I get into this story, let me make it clear that this happened back in August 2022. My name is Jaden and I'm 14 years old. In the later months of summer, I went camping with my girlfriend, Leah, and my aunt, which we were planning to do since before summer started. We were traveling to a locally known campground and we were going to stay there in a trailer that my aunt's husband owns. We left around 6 p.m. because the drive took around an hour and a half and because the campground was way out on the sticks, of course. When we got there, we parked in the parking lot outside the wooded area and took our tents, snacks, and other camping necessities. The trailer was located in a large clearing in the woods, and it's actually a very nice trailer. It's relatively new and has a lot of space. It has a living room, a mini kitchen, a bathroom, and even 3 bedrooms. The sun would shine greatly in the clearing, creating some nice scenery for photos. On the first day, everything went normal. Me and my girlfriend spent a lot of time watching TV. My aunt took photos of both the area and us, and we had a very nice dinner since my aunt is a wonderful cook. However, everything went downhill fast on the second day. It was a cloudy day, but it wasn't raining, which we were thankful for. There were also barely any animals prowling the area. I saw 1 deer and maybe a few birds, but that was about it. But my girlfriend Leah figured there might be a predator in the area. Fast forwarding to the evening, we are sitting by the river, which was a 30-second walk from our trailer. My aunt was telling us a story that I can't quite remember, when all of a sudden, we heard some sticks cracking and leaves rustling from the other side of the river.
"Hey, is that a bear?"
Leah asked. I heard a slight amount of fear in her voice when she said that, as she's afraid of bears, but my aunt said the sounds were too light for a bear, so I thought it might be a deer or something. That's when we heard the most blood-curdling shriek any of us have ever heard erupt from the other side of the river. I could feel the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and Leah jumped back in fear. That scream itched my brain in a way I could never describe. It was so human, yet so animal-like at the same time. All 3 of us got the hell out of there and ran back to the trailer. The whole time, hearing screaming coming from the river as we were running. We quickly gathered our belongings, stuffed them in a large duffel bag that we had brought, and ran back to the car. When we broke out of the woods, we jumped into the car, locked the doors, and took a deep breath. "What the hell was that?" Leah exclaimed. None of us could even begin to explain what we just heard. We just agreed to go back home and forget the whole thing ever happened. We pulled out of the lot and drove down the road back home. I decided to look one last time at the woods when we were driving away, and I swear to you, what I saw horrified me. I saw a tall black figure with glowing white eyes just staring outside the edge of the tree line, looking right at me. It shook me to my damn core, and I haven't been able to forget about the image since. It's October 18th currently at the time I'm writing this, and I still haven't told my girlfriend or even my aunt about what I saw. My aunt's husband went up to the trailer to see what he could find, though, and he found his trailer practically in ruins. I don't believe in skinwalkers or the paranormal or anything, but what happened to that campground definitely changed my mind a little about some things. When I was in high school, my dad left my mom and me to live with his friend who was about an hour and a half away from us. I'm a girl and I was 15 when this happened, but neither of my mom or my dad's friend has told me why my dad left. Sadly, after he left, my mom lost her job because he took the only car we had. So we had to live in a motel in a different town from where we used to live, but even though we lived in a different town, I still went to school in my old town. They would pick me up in a bus or van and take me to school, then bring me back home. A few months after living in the motel, I made a friend at school named Randy. He was really nice and we got along well. Around the middle of the school year, my dad had a warrant out for his arrest because he hadn't been paying child support for my siblings for a long time. It seems he couldn't afford it or something like that. So obviously, he ended up getting arrested. He spent 90 days in jail about a mile down the road from the motel my mom and I was staying in. And when he got out, he came and stayed with us again. Near the end of the school year, I was at one of my friends' houses when I got a call from my dad telling me, "We got an apartment in the town I go to school in." I was so excited and happy after hearing that. A few months go by, and things are going pretty smoothly. Randy and I decide we want to hang out outside of school for the first time. I didn't really hang out with anyone outside of school, because if I ever missed the bus that would take me from school to the motel, then I would be stuck with no way home and nowhere to stay. Randy was pretty much my only friend at the time. So I thought, yeah, let's hang out. We decided we would drop off our stuff at my house and then go and do whatever until one of us eventually had to go home. So we start walking home from school and we get onto my street when Randy then says, "Hey, I used to live on this exact street a few months ago." I asked him which house he lived in, and to my surprise, he gave me my house and apartment number. I thought it was pretty cool that he used to live in the house that I lived in now. Fast forward a few weeks, Randy and I would hang out pretty often and grew pretty close. But then he told me he wanted more and he wanted to go out with me. My ex-boyfriend and I had broken up a few weeks after I moved back to town, and I was then pregnant with his baby. So I told him that. And I also told him that I wasn't looking for a relationship because of my situation. He said he understood and that we could just be friends. But now every time we hung out, he would try and pull a move on me. But it wasn't anything huge like kissing me or trying other things with me. He would just always tell me how beautiful I was and how my ex was an idiot for not trying to be with me. He would even try to hold my hand or put his arm around me, but I told him every time he did this to knock it off and that I wasn't comfortable with what he was doing. After a few days of behaving well, Randy started to act inappropriately again. Things were going fine, and Randy was not touching me or flirting with me for a while. But one day, when we were hanging out at my house on a rainy day, things took a terrible turn. We were sitting on my bed watching YouTube videos when out of nowhere I started experiencing stomach pains. I then decided to lie down for about 20 minutes, but the pain suddenly became worse. I started to panic a little and thought it would be more comfortable to roll over and bring my knees up to my chest. That's when I felt Randy putting his arm around me and his body against mine like he was spooning me. I quickly sat up and asked him what he was doing, but he just stared at me for a moment and then tried to kiss me. I got really scared and pushed Randy off my bed because I have PTSD, which means I get really scared when people touch me, and he knew about it. I started getting upset with him and asked him to leave. Once he left, I locked all the doors and told him I didn't want to see him anymore. Then I'd blocked him on everything. Things were going well for a while. Later, when I told my ex-boyfriend that I was pregnant, he blocked me because he thought I was lying and trying to trick him, even though I had broken up with him. But when I had my first ultrasound, I asked a friend we both knew to send him a picture of it. The picture had my name on it and showed how old the baby was. He unblocked me and told me that he believed I was pregnant now and was going to be helping out with what he could, coming to appointments with me, looking for a job and all that. He wanted to get back together, but I refused, telling him that I only wanted him as the father of my baby. He would be nothing more. The point in all this was that we became good friends again, and I ended up telling him what Randy did to me. He didn't take it very well. He immediately messaged him and they set up a fight for the next day in the school auditorium. I know. Real stupid, right? They both obviously got suspended, and I found out that my ex is a horrible fighter. A few days after the fight, I had a miscarriage. Obviously, I was out of school now for a couple of weeks. Word got around pretty quickly because now my ex was once again telling everyone that I wasn't actually pregnant and I was lying to try and trap him, even though he had come to appointments where I had ultrasounds and had a baby bump as I was 3.5 months along. And I'm a very petite girl. After that, everyone at my school started to dislike me, and I received messages from people bullying and saying mean things about me. It was a difficult time for me. But then, something unexpected happened. Randy got into another fight with my ex-boyfriend again, and this time he seriously hurt him, putting him in the hospital. I was scared and didn't understand why Randy did that. One night, I woke up to the sound of someone being in my room. I turned on the light and saw Randy sitting in a chair. I was home alone, so I felt extremely frightened. I asked him why he was in my house and how he got in. He told me that he entered through the back door because apparently it was easy to unlock the bottom door, and the top door didn't have a lock. Just to make it clear, I live on the second floor and we have a back porch with a door that leads to some stairs, which then leads to another door into the house. At this point, I started panicking and told Randy that he had to leave. I screamed at him for all the trouble he had been causing me. I couldn't hold back my tears and he rushed towards me, trying to comfort me. I pushed him away, but he became angry and pulled out a knife. I became really scared at that point. He started yelling at me, saying how he just wanted to love me and be there for me. He claimed that I kept hurting him, which was not true. He was saying things that showed he was obsessed and had a distorted perception of reality. So I tried to talk to him and managed to calm him down. As he listened, I slowly moved closer to the door, trying to put some distance between us. But sadly, he realizes what I'm doing and grabs hold of me, warning me not to even think about escaping. Now he's really angry. He started saying things like, I couldn't see how good he is for me and whatnot. Then he started mumbling to himself in a disturbing way. In the midst of his frenzy, he briefly turns away from me, giving me an opportunity. So I quickly grabbed something nearby and started hitting him with it, but he doesn't seem affected and swiftly comes at me with the knife. I tried to dodge him, but he still managed to cut me, so I ended up with a painful slice on my side. It caught me by surprise, and while I was distracted, he got up and kicked me really hard in the back. The impact was so strong that I flew a few feet and it knocked the breath out of me. I found myself lying there, thinking I might not make it. Then he started walking slowly towards me, saying that I shouldn't have fought back. So now I would have to face the consequences. Then, in that critical moment, a police officer kicked the door open and tackled him. Another officer rushed in, carried me away from the scene, and took me to safety on the street. Meanwhile, several more police officers quickly arrived at my room. Afterward, I was taken to the hospital where my wounds were treated. I found out later that he was on drugs and it took 7 guys and being tased 4 times to take him down. Wow, I thought to myself. Thanks to my neighbor, though, for hearing my distress and calling the cops. But unfortunately, at the time of this incident, he was only 15, so he didn't go to jail. Instead, he got 5 years of probation and 6 months of community service. His family moved away after that, and I haven't seen him since, thank God. I've recovered nicely, and the most damage that was done was a huge, nasty black and blue bruise that covered most of my back for a couple of months. But it wasn't too deep, and he didn't kick me hard enough to do any severe damage. So I'm doing okay now, but it was still a traumatizing experience.